Hello and welcome to Leashed Dads podcast. That is Justin,
Hey, that's Jared. And we're both wearing
and we are
glasses.
two. What?
We're both wearing glasses.
Yes, we are two glasses-wearing leashed dads that get together to discuss our everyday lives while chained to our parental responsibilities.
And tonight,
Tonight, expectations versus reality of young children parenting them. That doesn't sound right, but
it's more or less expectations versus reality for parenting your young children. Brought to
yeah.
you by Leashed Dads Podcast. Like it or don't like it, we're going to teach you the not so good versus the good. I don't know. I'm just going on a spiel. As Jared mentioned, Leashed Dads. Feel chained to your everyday responsibilities like parenting? We can help.
Yeah, you're not
Maybe.
alone. We can help you in that feeling that you're
We
not
are
alone.
your community. Your community leaders. We want to be there again. I will keep reiterating that for you. No, so tonight, as Jared mentioned, we are going to talk about the expectations and reality of being parents of young children. I think it should be a doozy because what we always think of when we want to be parents, as such, sometimes you want to be a parent, but at the same time, this is what you have as an expectation where it's like, oh, yeah, it's going to be easy. Certain things are going to be easy versus what it's really like and not so easy. But before we do dive too much into that, I wanted to actually talk about this. This is part of my weekly update here. Arlo had approached me and told me that he has a loose tooth. So he's finally on the verge of losing his first tooth. Now, granted, he's sick. He's got pink eye and sinus infection, but he's very proud that he's got a loose tooth. I'm proud for him as well. Allie's got another tooth coming in, so she's just a bear right now.
Oh boy.
Yeah, I know it's been a hassle. It just recently happened, so sadly, work has been going well for me. I guess first couple days were a little rough. Today was actually a little different, somehow slower than anticipated. And when I say slower, I mean our schedule is fairly open. It just it didn't seem like there was a lot going on today.
Okay.
But usually we could have 3 or 4 long appointments throughout the day. Or today we only had I think it was like 1 or 2 long appointments. When I mean long appointments, I'm talking like 3-hour appointments, 2 to 3
It's a
hours.
long appointment.
Yeah. So that's, for example, a patient coming in at, I don't know. For example, today they came in at 11 o'clock. They didn't leave the building till either 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock because they got their braces off. Now we set the expectations that it is going to be a long appointment. When in reality, we tell them at the high side, it's going to be about 3 hours. When in reality, it could still be 2 hours, 2.5 hours. So they're very close. It just depends on how fast we can get them going, how fast doctor does his stuff, and how fast my other assistants, associates do their work as well.
Yeah.
And how cooperative the patient is. Believe it or not, most times it does we do rely on the cooperativeness of patients. So if they're moving or fidgeting around, it can make it difficult. But if they're still and always holding their mouth open for you, and you don't have to remind them or things of that nature, you could get it done sooner. So, but work went well. I've got a little bit of a confidence boost today because while sitting with patients, I had my doctor, my boss, come and do final checks on the patients so we could dismiss them, because previously I've been told not to just immediately dismiss my patients due to the fact that I'm still newer and they want me to make sure that the patients are good. If there is anything that needs to be changed or corrected, do that so we don't have the patient coming back or phone calling us and saying, hey, this is wrong, or something's poking at me, or something sharp in my mouth and
Right.
I need to come back in. We don't want that. So doctor did a couple final checks, and to his surprise, the biggest thing for me today was the fact that he had me do a wire. So we had to change wires, make it stronger. But he wanted me to do a special little bend to the wire in the back of the patient's mouth. And I've only seen it done once, and I did it today. Like, I've seen
Nice.
it done once before, and I did it today. Had him come do a final check. Thank you. Had him come do a final check, and he was pleased by the work. He's like, good job, or, well, great job. One of those two, right? It's just a big confidence boost, and I think it's a boost of confidence for himself too, knowing that, hey, Justin can now do things a little
So are you a
better
bender
than.
now?
I'm going to bend you over.
You're a bender?
I'm a wire bender, guys. I'm a wire bender. Shout out to Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Do I need to kiss your shiny metal ass?
No, not yet. You gotta bend me first before you can do that.
No, Futurama. You don't know. Did you watch Futurama?
I never got into Futurama. I know Bender,
Ah,
though. I know Bender. I've watched like one or two episodes, but I could never really get into Futurama. It's kind of like me never getting into South Park. Could never really get into South Park. No, more or less, I couldn't get into South Park because parents at the time didn't allow me to
yeah.
watch it. But
I
even
thought
then,
it
after I
was
started watching it on my own, I couldn't do it.
quick side tangent, but as far as South Park, I got like into maybe up until like whenever the Tom Cruise episode or like the heavy metal episode aired, and then I was kind of just done with the show. I don't know.
Hmm. It's there are certain points in it where people probably are done, or even I don't know. Crowds change, right? Fan
Yeah.
base changes, so it's what it is. But if it keeps going, why not? You've got the writers that are willing to make jokes and skits like that, so kudos to them. So
So you built confidence in yourself and the doctor today.
yeah, so hopefully that keeps
Awesome.
going, and he keeps relying on me a little more, um, where eventually they're comfortable enough with me not having to get a final check anymore, so I can just get the patient done, get them out the door. So it's kind of nice, and it's building more confidence in myself to even talk with the patients and talk with the patient's parents, um, to have just so they can know what's going on and what how I explain it to, because it's not always easy explaining what you're doing to the patient's mouth, to a parent or to the patient themselves, because you want to talk in the terms you sometimes you don't want to use layman's terms, right? uh,
Yeah.
you forget that you have to be dumb it down a little bit. Just like when you're actually at like a doctor's office because you've hurt your knee and they're like, oh yeah, you've got this contusion or blah 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 on you. It's like, dude, you scratched yourself. What else do you
All of us
need?
in that all of us in the industries that have like that special language that the average person just won't understand. Me, I can relate, and so
Yeah,
in insurance, you can't be just spouting off the coverage terms and endorsements because they don't understand.
exactly. You look at it, go, yep, okay, so this is this. All of a sudden, you're like, how do I explain this to my clients?
Right.
I mean, it can be easy. So like, I'll tell a parent, hey, by the way, we changed your child or your kid's wire, so they're going to feel a little pain. They might be a little sore. Give them ibuprofen or whatever. You don't just go off and be like, oh yeah, we went from a 016 stainless steel wire to a 16 by 22 heat treated wire. It's like they don't care about that. They just want to know if their kid is moving up with their wire, because
Right.
honestly, the stronger the wire, the closer they are to being done.
Yeah.
That's what it means to the parent. Um, and so it's all fun and games like that. So, now there are some hiccups along that, but that's not. I haven't had to deal with any of that. So, what about you? I know we went on a long little weekly update here from myself. But what about, how's your week been since last episode?
It's been a nightmare, buddy. I am still sick with this nasty sinus infection.
You should
Not to be too
go
graphic,
get
but
some
I'm
amoxicillin.
no. But it's getting a little gross, but it's not coming out forward. It's all draining, and it's going straight into my old breathing tube. So I'm coughing up some pretty stuff in the morning.
Did you know you should
But
blow your nose rather than suck it down your throat?
yeah, I trust me, dude. I've tried. Trust me. This is something that I probably only had like once, twice in my life, but it's totally it's going around in my office. It's going around Eleanor's school. It's everywhere, dude. The guy who works behind me in my office, he has the same thing, and he's been sicker longer than I have.
Yeah.
So I don't really know what to say to that. But
so side tangent there. Do you remember our friend Nate, right? From college?
Yeah, of
So
course.
just kind of one of those things, right? I feel like, I'm not saying you're going on that road or path, but Nate, he at one point had gotten sick, and we had gone on like Christmas break or whatever, right? We come back from Christmas break and he's still fucking sick. I think it had developed into like pneumonia or whatever, or something. Maybe not pneumonia, but he had something that he just didn't take care of when he should have, and it got worse. So it really sucked. But thankfully, none of us, nobody else, I think, within our apartment at the time had gotten sick. So, but yeah,
That's
a little
good.
tangent there. It just kind of reminded me of
that's
how
fine.
he never went and got treated until after.
Yeah, if it's not gone by probably the new year, I'm gonna go in. But
Well, you should go
it's
in
not like it's
sooner.
getting worse. It's just there. It's just constant.
It's lingering.
So, yeah, it's definitely lingering.
Yeah.
And this is my very busy season at work, and it doesn't help being short staffed. I'm holding on to dear life, just trying to get through each day one by one. So I got that going on, and I'm still getting used to the new schedule of being the primary parent at night, and it's kicking. Still, it'll take a while. It'll take a while, but other than that, it's all right. Going shopping on Sunday for Christmas.
Fun. My weekend is packed.
Christmas party Saturday for my in-laws. We're
See,
hosting.
you're lucky. We've got like 2 birthday parties this Saturday that we're going to. Well, not we're going to, but the royal we, in a sense. One party. Well, I've got to work this Saturday, so past after this or before this episode is released, I work. Then we've got like a birthday party for a friend's kid. And then Arlo's got a birthday party for one of his friends to go to. And then we're going out to dinner for Eleanor's first birthday.
Yay! Numero uno.
Yep. Even though it's like 4 days before her birthday, still we're going out. We're going to celebrate. We're going to Red Robin. Yum.
Yum.
Red Robin. Yum. I was just mixing 2 different slogans there, like Applebee's good in the neighborhood or whatever it is nowadays. But yeah, so that weekend's going to be long. And then we have a tournament for Kane's Wrestling. It's going to be exciting. I want to see him do really well after all this training he's gone through over the summer and like kind of like a school's off season of wrestling where he continued wrestling through his wrestling club. So I just want to see. I want to see how well he can do against other kids that either have taken breaks because they only wrestle through their school, or is he still going to get smashed? I'm hoping he doesn't get smashed because he's worked. I think he's put a lot of work into it, developed skills. So we'll definitely see how he does this weekend. But I'm super excited to see how that turns out.
Cool.
So that's kind of like my proud moment there. Besides Arlo having his first wiggly tooth. But yeah, that's my other proud moment. So what about you? I know you talked a little bit about being shitty from sickness, but that's not so much a proud moment. But what is your proud moment here?
Kids eating all their dinner. I don't know. Wasn't a proud moment tonight. They were constantly at each other's throats and got another
Sisters.
injury on the face.
You got an injury? I would be proud of that.
they did.
Daddy got hit.
But again, the emotional intelligence is getting better with Eleanor. She's becoming more aware of her feelings. She herself is just a ball of emotion. Being, I don't want to say girl, just being herself. Okay, being that type of person where it's 0 to 100 in instantly, and with any kind of emotion she feels, and she's finally. Like for example, with the fighting today, I had an instance where she was upset and yelling, and I told her to go sit down in her bed, and she actually did it. I wasn't expecting her to do it, and I went up there to ask them what they want for dinner, and sure shit, she's sitting there on the bed. I'm better now. Well, great. I totally didn't expect you. All right, cool. Yeah, thanks.
Expectation versus reality.
Right.
You expected her to go sit up in her bed, and in reality she did, but you probably thought she wasn't going to.
Right.
Or no, correction. You told her to do it. Your expectation was she wasn't actually going to do it.
Right.
But in reality, she did go do it.
Yep. So I'm proud of that, because that means she's actually stopping and listening and trying to work it out herself. So
that also shows some maturity too at some level. That now, is it really maturity? I don't know, but I think no. Well, yes, there is some level of maturity because she's taken the time to really, I would say, right, calm herself down or make herself kind of feel better, doing whatever she had to do, like emotionally decompress.
yeah.
So yeah, there's some level of maturity there, knowing that she needs to do that, and then all of a sudden says, "I'm better now." That's good. It's definitely good. So yeah, that's definitely a step in the right direction. And you mentioned it: expectation versus reality, right? You didn't. Told her to do something. You didn't expect her to do it. And in reality, she ended up doing it. So did that blow your mind then at that point?
Yeah. It totally did. Was not expecting it.
Yeah. It's kind of like the first thing as well of listening to your parent or the child listening, right? Expectation, being a parent of a young child, all children are always going to listen to their parent when we tell them to do something or ask them for something. We're trying to make sure they're doing something proper. We expect it to be 100%, or we want it to be 100%. I'm pretty sure every parent is like, yep, my parent's going to be 100% good with listening. Now, granted, that's always like somebody's expectations, right? We want our children to always be there and be mindful and actively listening. When the reality is, it's not so much. It's actually probably the opposite. You want them to do something, you tell them to do something, they're not listening, they're just ignoring you, doing whatever they want. Until you have to lay down the law hard and have, ground them or whatever it is.
Right. And, I going into parenting with a young child, I expected a little bit of sass and and defiance, but not to the level that I have experienced so far. And again, I don't want to get into too much of astrology because I don't fully believe in it, but there's something to be said about it, I guess. Being in a house full of Tauruses, being stubborn and bulls, and it's there, folks. That's why I was so blown away when she actually did it today, because I can count on two fingers how many times that's actually happened in the last 5 years.
Guys, it's not a hand tonight. It's two fingers.
Yeah, it's slim to nil. So and you think about it when you step into being a parent, you know, well, I listened as a kid, otherwise I got the belt or whatever, or I got slapped around, you know, so I had to listen, and so I was a good kid. But then you actually sit back and think of all the times where you actually didn't, and I don't know, I
Well, let me
feel
ask you this. Oh,
what.
finish your thought. Sorry.
No, I don't. I kind of ran off the train. The train went off the tracks on that one.
That's all right. Well, I was gonna, because that kind of leads me to a question here about that. It's like you said, oh yeah, as maybe as a kid, or people are thinking, well, as a kid, I always listened. It's like, when was it that a time you actually remember getting the belt versus your parents told you to do something and you didn't do it and you never got reprimanded for it? Because I'm gonna say this with the utmost confidence. If you got the belt or some form of punishment for not listening, it was due to some sort of severity behind not listening. Whereas, for example, um, you didn't clean the window or you didn't clean your room. All right. Well, how severe of a punishment do you really need for not cleaning your room? Right? Are you really going to get a belt for not cleaning your room? Now, that to me, that's just like an empty threat. Whereas maybe one of your parents could just go in and be like, "Yep, I'm throwing away all your toys," instead,
Yeah, I
or
totally see
it's
what
just
you're
not going to be
getting
where
at
you want
there.
it.
Yeah, you're right. The severity of the thing you did depended on your punishment for sure. And I try to keep it level as much as possible in this house, as I become more of a mature parent myself, and not doing the things my parents did. Is that so? For example, tonight, my youngest didn't have a nap today, so she was all sorts of effed, and so she had a major attitude and didn't want to get pajamas on. Partly my fault. I riled them up. We were playing some blanket monster game and whatever. So,
I love it.
but and I had to stop because it was time was getting late, and we had to do this, and she flat out refused. Flat out refused. I kind of even made a game about putting pajamas on, and she just totally shut down. And so, okay, no book then tonight. Now that threat didn't work, but followed through with it, and sure shit, she definitely was upset that she didn't get that book. And I just calmly, look, you did this, I said this, and it came true. You
Yep.
know, so, but give me an example of something so severe. Like, I remember breaking some sort of china or some sort of dish when I wasn't supposed to be horsing around by the china cabinet, and the stupid thing broke because it wasn't on right. It wasn't my fault. I was just playing gently around the area, you know. So what kind of like punishment would be severe enough for that? I guess it just depends on the parent and how loose of a cannon they are.
Oh yeah, exactly. Or how valuable that china was to them too, right? If that's truly more valuable than something else, um, that punishment could be exactly a big. I mean, to me, when I was younger, I think a spanking wasn't so severe. It's just like, oh, spank on the ass. Congratulations, this is your punishment for doing something or not listening, and doing something in a timely manner. God, I don't think I've ever had like a whipping or anything like that. I mean, for a severe punishment here, and again, I think this is all based on a household and how strict you want to be. But the thing I think of is I've really seen this happen. A household was so set on their children not swearing that they said, if you swear or say something naughty, I'm gonna wash your mouth out with soap. And I shit
Really,
you not, it happened.
I got
I
that
watched
once.
that kid get their mouth washed out with soap.
It was soft soap. It was the orange kind, and it tasted like total ass. Not that I know what ass tastes like, but it was sick. I don't
It
even know.
just
I don't
was
even know what
not
I
the taste you
said.
wanted.
No, I don't even know what I said.
Yeah,
Wish I
I don't
kind of
remember
did
what they
know.
said, but it definitely was on the vulgar side of things.
Bunch of bullshit.
Look at us now. They're adults and probably still swearing up a storm, but it's one of those things. It's like if you're like my parents always told me don't swear, and you hit a certain age, all of a sudden it's like it's too late now. Like I was pretty good when I was younger, like before teenage years, and I think that's kind of where it stopped. Like they know you're probably gonna swear outside of their house. They can't control that. But believe it or not, people it's kind of like an expectation with a child, right? As a young child, a parent expects you to not do something in their house, and then outside of that, they know in reality it's gonna happen elsewhere,
Yeah.
right? So they can do whatever they can to control what's going on within their own house. Um, and in reality it may happen or may not. They don't have ears all over the place either, believe it or not. They don't have ears in their house, so if you're swearing up a storm in your room, well, hell, they probably don't even know about it. Or if they do, well, great, they have videos or microphones in your room and they're listening to you 24/7, unless you have very like paper thin walls, um, or a very small house where everything just travels so easily, right? I could probably hear almost an entire conversation from my room, um, my bedroom, if the kids are downstairs in the living room. And
Okay.
if all things are in place where it's pretty much quiet and you don't have multiple things going on, like I'm not distracted by a TV or some sort of music, I could definitely hear some conversation going on. So I mean, those are kind of things, right? You expect to be able to do everything as a parent sometimes, or you expect your children to always behave. In reality, you got to remember that behavior is what defines them,
Yeah.
and it helps define their human being. So,
Yeah.
um,
So speaking of behaviors, uh, did you expect your young kids to clean up after themselves, or what?
um, no, well, not true. I did expect some sort of cleanliness from them, and to this day I still do. Like I expect them to clean up after themselves after they're done with an activity. In reality, they don't do it. They still don't do it unless they're told multiple times, which is kind of frustrating.
Yeah.
Um,
A
because
14-year-old
it's one
won't do it
thing.
either.
Yeah, it's one thing when you tell. I mean, it kind of falls back onto the children always listening, right, or willing to listen. They don't necessarily always listen, and um, them cleaning up after themselves, for example, is just they should be willing to do that, especially if um, it's something of value to them, right? Now, with the littlest one crawling around, putting things in her mouth, we try to keep it consistent, like clean up after yourselves, especially the little things. We don't want her putting the little things in her mouth. Um, that still doesn't go very well. Clean. It's very difficult when you want them to clean up after themselves and then they go on to something else right away. Like
Right.
I get that's going to happen. I've learned from that a little bit with like the first children. So like as a first time parent, the expectations are okay. Well, they're going to clean up after themselves. Well, now it's like in reality, after you have a couple more kids, you lose that expectation and you know what it's really going to be like. Um, Unless somehow you've got a very good obedient child. Don't know what you did well with or how you managed to get a very obedient child, but congratulations. Uh, you're definitely doing something right. Or you've struck fear into the child's eyes very quickly, um, with the short fuse. So maybe not so much
Yeah.
congratulations, but congratulations are still in order. Um,
I guess I'd be curious to see. on what level I cleaned up after myself, because I have a memory of, and this is the perfect example that comes to my head, is that one of my chores was to vacuum the couch, take the cushions off, and get underneath.
Sure.
Anyway, so, and then I would see, oh shit, I ate Doritos and I left this big ass mess. I better not, be so nonchalant about eating the Doritos on the couch next time, because then I wouldn't have to clean it up. So I don't know, to what extent, like, my kids, if they would have any of the same traits that I would. So far they don't, but if they had any of the same traits that, holy shit, I made a mess, this is kind of gross, I should next time clean it up. And that's kind of what I expect. So I expect them to see filth, be kind of disgusted by it, and then make the necessary moves to correct it. That's what I expect. Is it happening? Hell no.
Yeah.
No,
No,
they
I'm in
would
agreement.
live in filth.
I'm in agreement with you on that one. So when we do dinner, we don't necessarily have a big enough kitchen to have everybody around it. So Sam and myself we're really good. Okay. We make a mess, we clean it up,
Yep.
right? We don't just let it sit on the couch or anything like that. So we're still, I would say we're pretty damn clean when it comes to eating food. We know how to eat. As far as the children, we know the youngest ones that are able to eat on their own. We have them sit at the dinner table because we know full well that they won't clean up their mess unless they are scolded or well, scolded might be a little strong at this point, but reminded
Coerced.
or
Stern talking to.
a stern talking. Yes. I guess scolded is more or less saying there's going to be some sort of punishment involved or whatnot. Yeah, that's not necessarily true though, but they get that stern talk or that, your parenting voice at that point saying, yeah, you need to pick this up now before it stains the couch or whatever it is. So the expectation there is, they'll be cleanly. But the reality is even at the dinner table, they're still dirty and they still don't clean up after themselves fully. Unless they get the I'm done, because they'll come to us with their plate saying I'm done and they'll show us our plate because that's one of our expectations. They tell us they're done. We want to see that plate, especially if they want dessert afterwards. So if they want dessert, they got to show us the plate. And if it's not, like, this is where they've gotten pretty good about it. But we tell them, okay, you need to eat a couple more bites of this or a couple more bites of that. In order to meet our satisfactions of knowing that they've actually tried and had actually eaten their food rather than just kind of let it sit there and go to waste. So in order to do anything like that, usually does mean they need to eat their first full plate. Excuse me. But in reality, we know that sometimes the servings aren't exactly appropriately proportionate, I guess. Because believe it or not, sometimes children will look at it and be like, oh my God, that's way too much. Like somewhere in their head, they just think, okay, that's just way too much food for me. So their serving sizes are just too big at that point. I've tried to get better at that. Like expectations are I can put it on their plate, they'll eat it. Reality is there's such a limit to them that they won't eat everything because they know in their head that eventually they're going to get full. Or it's just too big, that's just way too much for me to take in. Oh my gosh, what am I going to do? So
Do you
we're
expect
not
them
too.
to eat healthy and eat a good, like, meal proportions and stuff?
Um, it depends on the meal because I know sometimes when we do serve certain meals, like Nico, for example, he loves like the noodles and sauce.
Yeah.
So that kid will have like 2 big servings. Or if we do spaghetti and white sauce, he'll enjoy like he'll gobble that up and he'll ask for more. So he becomes like a glutton when it comes to that. It's like, holy smokes, what
Yeah,
the
Eleanor's
hell?
the same way. Yeah.
But then other times it'll be like, okay, well, he does pretty good with like eating his meat. So if we do like hamburger helper,
Oh,
Nico,
yeah.
sometimes Nico doesn't really like pasta within the hamburger helper, but he'll do a good job of picking around that and eating the meat, which is fine. I'm not going to say eat both the pasta and the meat.
Right.
But usually if he wants more, which he does, it's because he wants more of the meat. So he'll finish the meat off and then we'll get him more. And I have no problem doing that because I know he's at least eating something healthy rather than being like, okay, I'm hungry now, I want junk food. Or unhealthy part of the meal, for example. Or try to get like, I had my dinner, now I want my dessert. Which I guess is still technically junk food, but sugar infused essentially. But you know, them eating well was an expectation at one point. When in reality, we know that sometimes they can be picky, and I've seen pickiness. Um, an expectation of them eating well is like, okay, they are going to eat what you provide them for dinner, right? When in reality, it's not always true. Even 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 when you cook it and they've never tried it. For example, it's the first time you cook this meal and your expectation is that they try it. They meet that expectation sometimes if you're very good about getting them to do it. But then after that, they don't like it. Now the reality is every time you cook that meal, they're going to want something else because they've already got it, they've already tried it, they don't like it. So they become picky and be like, no, I don't want that, or I'm not going to eat that. Well, you've got to now supplement for them, which is a harsh reality because you don't want to starve them and be a bad parent or neglectful. And so you've got to find a way to supplement it, but you have to be careful because once one child stops eating that, you kind of get a bandwagon.
Yep.
Because other eyes are like, oh, well, this person doesn't have to eat it because they don't like it, but I've never had it before, or I guess I've never had it before because every time he gets it, I get I get my supplement too, or my substitution as well. Yeah, no, that's another battle, but eventually you'll get to that point, and maybe there's some defiance there at some point or another, where it's like, nope, I'm not going to eat. But then at that point, it's like, fine, when you're hungry, this is what's going to be available. So try to
Right.
let them know that just because you're not eating now doesn't mean you get to skip and then have something else later.
Right.
And we actually do run that in our house too. It's like, if you don't eat your dinner now and you're hungry, dinner will be here for you later. But it is what it is. So that's one of the eating side of the expectations versus reality with a young child is you serve them something, you expect them to at least try it. They try it, they don't like it, and now you've got a harsh reality of finding them something else when you may have that, or allowing them to have something else.
Right.
Because there are some parents, maybe you do just tell them, no, you're not having anything else. You got to suck it up, Buttercup.
Yeah. I mean, I I expect them to eat when they're hungry. No. Like, so for instance, we have some things going on during the day. They don't get a lot of food. We don't have time to eat, and they're fine. They have little snacky snacks here and there, and then so they're hungry, and then you try to put something new in front of them. They're not. No, they'll
So the
starve.
other side of
They
being
rather
picky.
would starve than eat something that looks new, even if it tastes good. Even if I know that they'd enjoy the taste, as long if it looks new, they're not going to touch it.
That's another harsh battle too, or harsh reality battle is it's new. They're afraid to try it because they don't know how it's really going to taste, even though you may enjoy it. But that's where I think the idea of having them always try something new or having them always try it is the best situation or scenario you could put yourself in. Because you, as a parent, we may try something new, but we can also encourage it by doing it as well. So let's say you find a new recipe. You've never done it before. You've never had it before. You don't know what it's going to taste like until it's done. So being that good leader or good example of trying something new is I would say, very critical at that point. Because if you try it, maybe you have them try it, or maybe they will be more willing to try it. Whereas you've cooked it, but you're not going to try it because you made it just for them. You're not setting a very good example, right?
Right.
So I think in that expectation of, oh, you're going to have your kids try something, but you're not going to do it, that sets the reality. They're going to be like, nope, I don't want it now either because you don't touch it. So if you want your expectation to become the reality, you have to be willing to try that new thing as well, especially with them. And again, start off with small portion sizes. That's the recommendation I would make. If you're going to try something new for your kids, give them a small portion. That way, you're not wasting it, and two, if they really don't like it, well, they don't have to eat all of it. And again, I guess you're not wasting it. But then at the same time, you can tell them, okay, just finish it and you don't have to have it again. And then they can move on to something else.
Right.
That's
really we do the whole you eat like these amount of bites and you can get something else kind of thing.
Yeah.
It works.
Yeah. But then next time that when you do cook it, they'll probably be like, what you cooking or what are we having for dinner? It's like, all right, well, we already know you're not going to eat it, but here's what you can have as a substitution for it.
Yeah.
So that's what we kind of do with it. We do have some things like kid cuisines, which we know has like the meats or whatever. Or we tell them, yes, this is what we're having, but you can make yourself a sandwich. So, yeah. Now, here, I know I've been yawning, and I apologize for that.
No, I am too.
But I know we always have some sort of problem. I don't know if I haven't had this recently, but sometimes, and it does actually kind of drive me nuts with how old some of the kids are, or like the older children in my house. The expectation is that, he's able to sleep through the night. Or if he does wake up, he's able to fall back asleep on his own, without any comfort. So children sleeping through the night, your expectation for those young children, not so much your infants, because we know infants will never sleep through the night. And if they do, well, you either hopefully you didn't suffocate them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hopefully you didn't like do anything to knock them out, like give them alcohol or anything like that, to help, allow you to get that sleep. You just got to bear with that. But we're talking like those very, like maybe 4-year-olds, 5-year-olds, 6-year-olds, just the young children, really the ones that maybe definitely sleep in their own room, or have, some sort of independence when it comes to sleeping. You tuck them in, they're good, right? Them sleeping through the night. The expectation is they're always going to do it, right? You don't have to worry about anything. You get them to bed. They're sleeping through the night. No disturbances to you. When in reality, they need the extra comfort. As such, Jared is dealing with that right now, where the children are kind of refusing to go to bed.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, I am. I totally expected it. I don't know why. I always just thought that kids, because if I got up out of bed with my parents, I was brought back immediately and I would either just cry it out or I would, screw around until I just fell asleep with my lamp on. But I was not allowed to not sleep in my bed, kind of. So
Yeah, our
I don't know
expectation,
what their problem
or
is.
at least my expectation, is you have like you're able to have these lights, right? We've got, or the kids have like an LED light strip around the roof of their bedroom. It gives off enough light, or to me, it gives off enough light. If I was their age, I would be okay with it. At one point I used to have like a little LED light, or sorry, LED light that would change colors. Um, and it's just kind of like a little guidance so I don't walk into anything, or didn't walk into anything, because sometimes rooms do get pretty dark, and if you're waking up to go to the bathroom, you don't want to collide into anything, even though you should know the layout of your room pretty well. And sometimes you're just like, you kind of go into that autopilot and just like start walking around and whatnot. Um, it's sometimes hard, but currently some reality is the fact that uh, sometimes our 11-year-old doesn't necessarily sleep through the night, wakes up, comes upstairs, unable to put himself back to sleep without having additional comfort knowing that mommy and daddy are around. So it's a harsh reality when you know that there are lights on. We have done some countermeasures to help with that. Um, in the past, he would wake up kind of scared for whatever reason, but we gave him a flashlight because he always thought there was something in the corner of his room. So we gave him a flashlight to turn on and flash it in that area. Be like, there's nothing there. We do have a lamp in their room too. It's not on right now because of I haven't turned it on and the bulb is dead, or the light bulb is dead, and I haven't replaced it. So I'm trying to break that expectation or the need of a light or a big light like that. If I can downgrade them to just a little night light that goes plugged in, that would be ideal. And actually be able to turn off those LED lights eventually, because I don't think that's necessarily a good thing to have on all the time in your room, especially when you're trying to sleep.
Right.
Yes, sure, it brings comfort, but if you want a good night or sound sleep, darkness is a way to go.
Yep.
So, I mean, that's kind of expectations, right? We always expect them to be able to sleep through the night with no problems. In reality, they're going to have problems. Sometimes they're going to have nightmares or night terrors, and they're going to wake up and they're going to need some sort of cuddles, or they're able to fall back asleep.
That I could understand. For sure. If there's a reason why, like if there's a reason why they're waking up and needing comfort, yes, okay, come here. Dreams can be scary as all hell.
Yep.
Let's cuddle and then let's go back to bed. But like this, no reason. I'm so frustrated.
Sometimes we have, like, my children, they will procrastinate to go to bed, right? Like, I send my two younger boys off to bed at about 8:30. I tuck them in. We have their sister come in, give them hugs, kisses, whatever. They give her a hug, kiss, good night. Then we expect them to be able to fall asleep, right? Expectation, that's our expectation. Reality, Nico likes to stay up, chat up a storm, distract Arlo from falling asleep, whatever. Arlo's able to do that sometimes. Fall asleep with Nico just talking up a storm or whatever. And sometimes the other reality is Arlo will refuse to go to bed. He'll find ways to procrastinate going to bed. As in, he'll come out and be like, I'm hungry, or I'm thirsty, or, something of that line, right? Now, if it happens towards the weekend, whatever, I don't care. You don't have school in the morning. So if it's happening Friday night into Saturday, whatever, fine.
Yeah.
But then again, we also don't make them go to bed right at 8:30 either. We allow them to stay up later. Like, we give them an hour increase in bedtime. So they go to bed at 9:30 on the weekends or Friday, Saturday. So that's just one thing. But most of the time during the weekday, it's like expectations. We get you into bed by 8:30. We want you to be sleeping or trying to sleep, but reality is they're not necessarily able to fall asleep. And we know that it's not going to happen like snap of the fingers, right? I know that's never going to happen as we've come to grow through that. But the expectation is to be able to go to bed, stay asleep without some of those problems. But I mean, again, if it is a nightmare that wakes them up, it's understandable. But if you wake up and just randomly and all of a sudden you're just like got your head full of emotions or somehow you are disturbed by something that just like I can understand if you also wake up to a noise, like it startles
Yeah, that
you.
too. Yeah.
But if you wake up to go to the bathroom and then you have a hard time going to sleep and you need to come upstairs, that's a problem. Personally, I think it's a problem because you are the one that woke up, need to go to bed, or need to go to the bathroom. Now you should be able to go back to bed with an empty bladder.
Yeah.
And you've got plenty of things in your room to keep you safe or whatnot. So, I don't know. That also, I guess, kind of involves some independence and
Yeah.
dependencies, like being able to go back to sleep on your own, right? My expectation is that type of independence where you are able to do that, or if you are hungry, you're able to feed yourself like a snack, grab your own snacks, um, get your own drinks, do certain things that you used to rely on parents for, but now you don't need to. What about you? What are some things you expect your children to actually be more independent towards versus actually leaning more on you for now?
Well, sleeping is one of them. Obviously, pretty big. The constant need of reminders to do something like get dressed in the morning or get pajamas on or brush teeth.
Those are actually good. Thinking about it, I never really did put much consideration into those. That's huge. Even though it's funny because tonight, uh, I guess I do have that same expectation of being able to get themselves dressed. Like, um, Nico, he does fine, right? They do. They're pretty good about getting dressed in the morning. Uh, as you get older, it gets easier. You don't have to necessarily worry about that. Sometimes clothes can be hard. For example, some of the pajamas that we have for the boys, they're zip ups. They're like little pull ups thing. Pull up zip up pajamas. That can be difficult still sometimes, even for a 4-year-old. But he should now have that kind of down more
Yeah.
so than needing assistance. So my expectation is he should be able to do that almost pretty well, where it just doesn't really happen. So that expectation and reality is just not there. Um, it's more or less always needing help getting the legging or getting your feet through the legs properly and whatnot. Um, Sometimes my 6-year-old has problems as well getting uh, his clothes on straight. He'll get them reversed. But at the same time, I know that if I tell him that, he's more able to correct it or will be more adept to correcting it than per se you tell him any of that and then he's not going to listen. So
All
anything
right. Well, I
else?
think no. I mean, I guess I wasn't expecting the kids to have like this constant stream of energy. I was I probably would expect them to have some sort of time, at least just an hour throughout the day, to read books or like calmly play with toys instead of being on a rampage 24/7.
See, I would expect the children, and I think I have expected the children in the past. I mean, thinking from how we grew up, right? Or I always wanted to probably go outside, um, be outside or do things. But then getting older changed my reality, right? Parents expected you to want to go burn off energy. That's kind of the same thing here now with my children. I expect them to want to go outside, be social, be interactive, do things that really, burn off this energy they have. So they come in and be like, I'm tired, I'm ready to go to bed, things of that nature. When in reality, uh, sometimes it's a struggle to get them outside and want to go play outside. Or all of a sudden it's the wrong time.
Yeah.
Like, look at now, for everybody that's in, like, well, I guess everybody here in the northern hemisphere, I guess, such as like Wisconsin or just in North America, you've now going into, I won't say you all have the 4 seasons, but here in Wisconsin we have 4 seasons, right? Spring, summer, winter, fall,
Sometime all in one day.
or fall, winter, sometime all in one day. But during the winter season, right, our days are short. Like, the sunlight is short. It's funny because sometimes the kids want to go outside while it's dark. I will
Yeah.
let them go outside while it's dark and there's snow, because the snow, believe it or not, will help light up the area.
Right.
But if there's no snow, and our neighborhood isn't necessarily like the quietest of neighborhoods when it comes to vehicles going down it or cars going down the street, and they, not to mention the lack of attention that sometimes the vehicles or the drivers of those vehicles have. So if a kid walks out into the middle of the road, bam, that person's probably going to be in a heap of trouble. So it's just the amount of trust. Whereas, some days, if you had a big enough backyard or kids were willing to play in the backyard, fine. You want to play outside till dark? Go for it. Or until it's too dark to do anything, go for it. But, those expectations kind of aren't there. Or I would love for them to want to go outside and burn off that energy and come back in and be willing to go to bed. But really, it's the other way around. They're lazy. They don't want to do anything until they get bored of whatever they're doing, and they're like, okay, what else can I do? It's like, go outside, go play. Or somebody else comes up to the door, and mommy and daddy kind of force you to go outside and be like, yeah, let's go outside for a
Yeah.
little bit. So, more or less, you're now being forced to do it a little bit and finding something to do and hanging out with and being social, rather than actually on your own free will. So, you have anything else about like the expectations of burning energy, or any other expectations versus reality you wanted to cover?
No, I
At
mean
all?
the main one that I really was shocked at, that I was expecting, is the sleep thing. Really.
Yeah. Sleep. I don't know. I wish all kids would just be willing to sleep at certain points, like especially through the night. They should be able to sleep appropriately rather than not at all, or have issues. But again, harsh reality. Sometimes we have to remember that children have different needs, I guess. But that's gonna be it for you folks here, talking about expectations and realities. Hopefully, this gives you more of an idea. For you newer parents, or even just to clear up some of those things for existing parents as well, that already have those young children and whatnot. We can. I know we always try to say yes. We're good at what we do, but in reality, there are things that always throw us for a loop. Anything else, Jared?
No. Yeah. Prepare to be
All right.
surprised.
Prepare to be surprised. Yes, or sometimes, or in words of some people, don't. I guess what it comes down to is, if you're not expecting it, you won't necessarily be surprised. Or expect the unexpected. That's what it is.
Yep.
Expect the unexpected. That way, you're not always surprised by everything or taken by surprise. So, if you guys have anything else you want to share as well, feel free. But thank you all again for being amazing listeners, and we will see you next time. Have a good day.